Okay, so I'll call the Town of Barnstable Shellfish Committee meeting to order on this November the 9th, 2022. It's approximately 6 o'clock p.m. And I'll start with a roll call of who's present. I'll start with you, Bill.
Bill Cherupon, present.
Bob.
Robert Lancaster here.
Stuart Rapp here. Al. Al Supernaut. I don't hear him. Mr. Crook.
His
You're on mute.
his microphone is.
I think I heard you, DJ. Tyler?
Tyler Hagenstein here.
Great. And did Al unmute?
No.
I
Mute.
can't see.
How's that?
Oh, there you are.
Go.
Okay. Jeez.
Are you here?
Al Serpenine is here. That's correct. At the
Awesome.
meeting.
Great. We have first order of business is, I think I should read the notice of recording. It comes after my comments, but please note that tonight's meeting is recorded and broadcast on Channel 18 and in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. I must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting and to please make their presence known. Besides the Town of Barnstable, is anybody else taping this meeting? I guess not. First order of business is to approve the minutes of our October 12, 2022 meeting. Al, you're on the screen, so I'll ask you to move those minutes, please.
I move that we approve the minutes from the meeting of October
12.
October 12, 2022.
Awesome. Great. So the minutes have been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Great. They've been moved and seconded. And any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving them as presented signify by saying aye, but I need a roll call. Start with you, Bill.
Aye.
Just state your name.
Lancaster, aye.
Serpenine, aye.
Hagenstein, aye.
DJ? Great. And Rapp, aye. Awesome.
I'm
What's
not
that?
sure if you're aware Patricia's in here as well as Jake. Patricia, you need to unmute.
It's almost backwards.
Okay, I'm here.
Great. So we've moved and seconded and closed the discussion on the minutes from October 12. How do you vote? In favor of?
Aye.
Aye.
Right. And who was the other?
Jake.
Jake, is that you?
Yeah.
Great. First order or second order is the chairman's comments. At this time, the only comments I have regard the Bay Street boat landing and the concern that I had over the rocks that were along the newly constructed property on the left side as you drive to the boat ramp. And I'm pleased to see that they have been removed. And I'm not pleased to see that the town has put some cones on the right side as you go down to the water. And there's a no parking zone virtually from the parking area up to the curve on that road. I'd like to see the town waive that parking restriction, at least on one side of that road, on days that the recreational shellfishermen use that area. I know that we have a new town council liaison, Paul Cusack. I'll welcome you to the committee, Paul.
Thanks, Stuart.
Nice to see you. Be great if you could do something to at least on the weekends. Wednesday, I don't think is as busy, but maybe it is. It would be great if they could relax the ticketing. I understood on opening day there were some 17 tickets that were issued, and it just seems, with the ways to water as limited as they are, and with the lack of, stock anyway, it'd be great if it would be available to be harvested. It doesn't take but, a few hours on each day that the tide is decent and that you can legally fish. So if you could do anything about that, Paul, that'd be certainly appreciated from my
Yeah,
perspective.
Stuart. Yeah. I was happy to see that this weekend. Yeah, those stones were removed at the 209 property. But yeah, those 17 tickets did reach my ear, and I have talked to some other folks within the council who have landings in their district and say, yeah, there have been sort of relaxed standards on certain days that go into some sort of quasi agreement with the police, and I'm not certain why that wasn't afforded folks last week, and those 17 tickets were issued. So maybe for next meeting, I can do a little follow up.
That'd be great. Thank you very much, Paul. And
May I comment?
Yes, Bob, go ahead.
I was one of those 17 people that got ticketed. I parked where I for the last 20 years on Bay Street. When I got there 2 hours before low tide. And at that time, the parking lot was filled with a boat trailer that was disconnected. A large white refrigerator truck was filling almost 2 spaces in the parking lot. There was basically no place to park except on the street. And I am really angry about this. The town spends a lot of time, as we know, on the Shellfish Committee, time, money, planting, growing, all of these shellfish here. And basically what we've done is limited the shellfishing on Bay Street to about 4 cars on any one tide. If you're only allowed to park in that lot. And I just think it's just not right. Unfortunately, I have some neighbors who know I'm on the Shellfish Committee who were also ticketed. And they've been at my door raising hell at me as if I could do something about it. So anyway,
Appreciate that, Bob.
and it was a $40 ticket, and it's just a pain. It just doesn't seem right.
Yeah. Anybody else want to be heard on this comment?
I have a comment. I think that also as far as the parking lot goes itself, we've lost a little bit of parking after it was redone with those really sharp curbs and stuff like that, because back in the day you could probably squeeze maybe a couple more cars in here and there, but now they have like the unforgiving curbs that will pop your tires and stuff. And then maybe that's something to look into when we redo other ways to waters in the future, that we don't do that because it prevents us from sneaking in on those busy days a couple extra cars on the side.
Gotcha. Yeah, the design it leaves a little bit to be desired with the granite curbing. Doesn't make any sense to me.
And pretty expensive probably too.
Yeah. I think the granite curbing lobby is pretty strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Watch out for those guys.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I can't see anybody. It's kind of strange.
Well, this is Al Sherman. As I understand it,
I guess I didn't realize that.
as I understand it, they're trying to do the same thing at Scudder, which brings us. There's a meeting next week, which I should be attend. I'm certainly going to attend, because they were told under no uncertain circumstances last year that nobody wanted anything changed. And of course, they came up with a plan that changed everything. So it's it's a serious issue. They obviously did the same thing at Bay Street. They just spent all this money because they can, not because it's any good for the access or the boat ramp for that matter is a mess. So
Yeah, you'll break your ankle trying to take your boat off the trailer at that boat ramp and then walk
Yeah,
over
it's
those
just-
giant rocks.
it's
You know what I mean?
it's
It's
a-
like,
It's a
it's not,
disaster.
yeah.
Yeah.
What, anybody know if anything happened opening day down at Scudder as far as parking on the beach?
We had cones up along the where the marsh ends there, and it didn't look
Yes.
like everyone went over the cones. So it was just parking on the beach where they usually park, and then up the street on the one side.
Gotcha. So no issues.
Yeah, no issues.
That's great. Thanks, Ben. Wonderful. I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on to the natural resources report, and Ben, you have the floor.
All right, let me just share my
Actually,
screen here.
if I may, excuse me, if I may interrupt. Sorry,
Sure,
I
Chris.
zoomed in late. Thank you very much, Stuart. And I welcome Paul. He's the new liaison to the Shellfish Committee. And I will be zooming into the Zoning Board of Appeals. But perhaps this will be part of the Natural Resource Department or Division report nonetheless. But on Wednesday, November 16th, in the Harborview Conference Room at Barnstable County, at the county complex in Barnstable Village, there will be a meeting held at 4:00 to discuss the renovations to the Scudder's Lane boat ramp renovation. That was approved by the town council. Just so you know, I am driven with the spirit of John Novoychik, who told me before he died, don't let them do to Scudder Lane what they did to Bay Street. So I hear you, Bob, and the others about the over-engineering and the granite curbing and the loss of parking spaces at Bay Street. And here's your opportunity to weigh in front of the job being done. This is a planning department, the DPW information meeting. And part of it is driven by Councillor Gordon Starr and me to say, please listen to the stakeholders of the users of the ramp before you start engineering so-called improvements. So I'm letting you know, spread the word that this is happening at my behest, that it's done away from low tide. It's done in the village close to where the site is being worked on. And I ask that it be done before Thanksgiving so that shellfish farmers who are typically busy buttoning down their farms in advance of winter can weigh in on this and not have it impact their workday. So here's your chance. You got one shot, weigh in on it, spread the word. Thank you very much. This is November 16th at the Harborview Hotel, Harborview Room at the Barnstable County, where the old jail is, 4 p.m. So apparently DPW consulted with Amy and they selected this day that would be conducive to the users of the ramp. That is mostly at high tide and before Thanksgiving.
Great. Thank you for that, Chris. I appreciate it. And again, the date is November the 16th.
Yes, and I was of the understanding that Amy sent this to the stakeholders. And if you haven't heard about it, spread the word, please.
Yeah.
This was specifically done with enough notice so that people could plan for it and not let the problems at Bay Street be replicated at Scudder Lane. Please don't let it happen. It's not for me to say. Let the stakeholders say.
And just so everybody knows, it's a week from today, the 16th. That's when the meeting is. So it's next Wednesday,
4 p.m.
4 p.m. at the county building Harborview Room. Thank you
Mr.
again.
Chairman,
Yes.
I'm realizing that Amy's on vacation right now. So I'd be happy to forward the press release to this group, but I'm wondering, Chris, you mentioned that she was going to forward it to other stakeholders. If there's any other group, I certainly can send it out to aquaculturists. I really have that ability to isolate whatever group you want me to email that to.
I was under the understanding that Amy was quick about already sending this out.
Okay.
Have the growers heard about it? I heard Jake, maybe
Yeah.
not.
No, they have.
I don't-
I have.
I think it was just the Shellfish Committee she sent it to.
Rachel said it was sent out, and I got it.
Okay, good to know.
And
Thank
and I can scan and send to you, Nina, a list of people who signed in because they're all, the stakeholders are also the residents on Scudder Lane.
Bars would be a good one to get a hold of.
All right,
Well,
Chris, why
let
don't
them
you
know.
and I talk offline perhaps tomorrow and just make sure everything is buttoned down because Amy really isn't coming back until right around that date.
I understand. Thank you. But
Thank
yeah, I just wanted to make sure that this was deliberately planned to accommodate the timing to be conducive to the stakeholders and to do it before you got into your busy rush for the winter, season.
Correct.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I'll see you there.
Next, absolutely. Next order of business is the natural resources report. And we'll go back to Ben.
All right, let me share this presentation here. All right, everyone see that all right?
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
All right, so Amy just had this for me to start with. Just the shellfish permit sales so far in October. So you can see it's up from last year. So everything's going well there. I just wanted to mention along with this, because it's tied in, we had the busiest opening week ever. So it was last Wednesday and Saturday were the first 2 days of oyster season, and we checked 690 people. And the previous time people checked was a full 3-day week, and that was 660 people. So people are definitely interested, and they're enjoying it, and they're coming out, and we're seeing more people out there than ever. So just wanted to mention that.
Are you short of oysters? I heard Stuart mention that it sounded like there were not a lot of oysters in North Bay. Is that correct?
North Bay is good. We have the same amount there we usually put there. Next year we're going to be switching the location around because of the dermo going on at Bay Street. But we have the same amount we usually put at Bay Street down at Bay Street. And Scudder, we don't have everything on the ground yet, but we're putting more down tomorrow, and hopefully soon we'll get everything out of the trays and onto the ground. But
Great.
Chris had mentioned this, but Amy wanted me to share this also, just the information about the Scudder Lane Boat Ramp project meeting. So if you guys want to take a picture of this, if you need the information, but it sounds like you all have all that information.
Good. Ben, can I just back up to the 600 some odd people that you checked? Do you have a tally of the number of bushels that were taken?
I do. I don't have it off the top of my head. So I do it by pecks for oyster season because it's just easier to keep track of that way.
Sure.
Because it's getting the pecks. So it was 690 people, and I looked at the numbers today. It's somewhere around 350 pecks of oysters taken. And I
Okay.
have the log numbers too, but I don't remember that number. So yeah, 350 pecks on the opening week.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
How many oysters in a peck?
It depends on what size. People like to tell me when they come up to the ramp when they pack them in. So they were getting anywhere from 30 to 45 in the half peck, depending on how big they were.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's right. The limit is a half a peck, isn't it?
Right.
Wonderful.
Mill Creek is open too. Amy just wanted me to share that. So that opened up on Sunday. So everyone is aware of that. Mill Creek's open now. And then I have the propagation report. So before I start on this, I just want to say it's been a tough season. We had a lot of animals and a lot of survival. It's a lot of good survival. So we had a ton of animals, not enough good tides to use to put them in the ground. It seemed like all the good tides were in the middle of the night. But yeah, we have a good crew. We have our 2 seasonals, Devin and Ryan. They've been great, hard workers. Liz is always great, and we used volunteers a lot this year. So the volunteers were a big help to us. So yeah, let me start with the cohogs. So we ordered 3.5 million R1.5s from ARC and a million 1 millimeter from Muscongus. Those came in July, a little later than the ARCs. And so far, we've planted just over 3 million cohogs under nets this year. So that's up 1 million from last year. And it's up even more than that from the year before. So yeah, we're really happy with that. We had great survival in the flupsies this year.
Excuse me, what size did you plant under the nets?
It varied. We tried to start planting a little earlier because we knew when you look at the calendar, we can look and see how many minus tides we're going to get to get them under nets. So we started planting the first ones. I don't know the exact size, but they were probably like a little bigger than like Skittle size. And then the biggest we planted were probably, like 1/2 inch. So we have it by liters because we get the wet measurement and we do it by liters. We were getting 25,000 a net. So the biggest literage we had on a net was almost 20 liters for the 25,000, which is huge. It's like an overflowing 5-gallon bucket under one net. So those are the biggest ones we planted. Smallest were a little smaller because we wanted to start early. And then some of these Muscongus ones on the north side, especially, just wanted to get them in the ground because that flupsy is now out of the water and in that grassy parking lot there. So we needed to get the Muscongus out of that flupsy so they didn't have a chance to continue to grow. So they're a little smaller, but they look good. They're healthy. But yeah, so pretty big range. We started planting in, I want to say that middle of August. So those ones are a little smaller. And then the September plants, they're huge. October plants are still huge. And then we still have huge stuff that's just hanging out in the flupsy, still waiting for a minus or we might consider ways to overwinter them. But we planted 132 nets total. And so it was 81 last year. So that's up 51 nets from last year. So great production out of the cohogs. We're really happy with that.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Thank you.
Is it the south side that you need, that you're very limited to the tides every month and you need the big negatives?
Right. Yeah. Because if we're planting, you can't really plant. 0 is probably the lowest, 0, maybe a 0.5, depending on the area on the south side. Because of the, we need that water out of there so we can see what we're doing. And then it comes in fast. So we're trying to do like 10 nets a tide at least. So, I mean, it comes in quick and then we have volunteers that are just like overflowing their waders, putting the staples down and stuff. So
I gotcha. Is this the total planted under nets? Is that all north side and south side, or like?
Yeah, that's north side and south side.
Okay.
So I go into a little more detail a little further down.
Okay, yeah.
So south side, we had 93 nets on the ground at our usual spots, Handy Point, Joe's Grant, our site in West Bay. We did some at Sandpoint in North Bay. And I want to say that's it. We were able to fit a lot at Handy Point. We put like 43 at Handy Point. So those will get dug up and moved around in a couple of years. We've actually had great growth out of the stuff that's under net so far. We've had some like little necks in 2 years, so they're growing really fast. So we're moving them quicker than we usually do. Used to be at least 3 years. Sometimes Liz would do 4, but now it looks like we're getting some really fast growth. So 2 years sometimes to get a little neck in certain areas. So we'll be moving those around. We're gonna have a lot to move around in 2 or 3 years with all the stuff we just planted. North side, we planted 39 nets between Harris Meadow and Rendezvous. 20 at one spot and 19 at the other. I can't remember which was which. And for the south side, so we put 3.2 of those R1.5s in the flupsy, and we've planted almost 2.5 million of them so far. So I mean, it's a pretty good percent, even if we didn't have any left, but we still have a whole flupsy full. It's pretty thick. And then Muscongus, we tried to put 700,000. It come in one bag and they're tiny. So we don't know if it was exactly 700,000, but those are all still in there. So we're not sure how many of those will go in the ground or survive, but we'll keep track of that. On the north side, we did, let's see, something's blocking my, there we go. On the north side, we did 300,000 of those ARCs in the flupsy and 300,000 of the Muscongus. So I don't know if it was the bag split or what, but we actually ended up having over 100% survival out of the ARCs over there. So it could have been a little bit extra in the bag. It could have been split in the bag. It didn't go perfectly, but I mean, that's pretty good considering we tried to put 300,000 in there and we got 314 out. And then Muscongus, we ended up with 82% survival. So almost 250,000 of those survived. And that's pretty good too, considering last year we lost every single Muscongus clam. So things were looking good for the cohogs this year. For stocking up bigger stuff, we moved almost 350 bushels this year compared to 200 and almost 300 last year. So up on the production with that as well. We moved 128 and a half of those to rec only areas, and then bushels moved to all. We had 219 to where everyone could dig them, commercial and recreational. Part of Joe's grant, our site in West Bay was opened up to everybody, commercial and recreational, and then Salton Point was opened up to all as well. And we're currently maintaining 278 cohog nets around the town, north and south side.
Great. Any questions for Ben?
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure. Go ahead.
So like, what's the mindset about the cohogs in the flupsies now? Like you've said, like kind of like, hopefully they survive and stuff. And you're limited by the tides, but maybe the mindset should be like, maybe we should risk trying to plant them on a tide that isn't the most conducive as far as like getting them all under the net appropriately, as far, or like, because we're getting colder, and the colder we get, the less food we get, and the more they have less ability to dig down. And I just think that almost like even just throwing them out of the flupsy and just letting them dig into the ground anywhere would be better than letting them get like cold shock and then not be able to dig in.
Right. So we're still figuring out what to do with them. If we do come upon a tide in November, it's hard with the daylight savings and just the amount of sunlight we have to use one of these good tides. But if we do have a good tide, we will put as many nets as we can down. We actually, our last nets at Handy Point, we actually planted at double density, just to get as many out of there as we could. So we did 50,000 a net, and we're planning to dig those after 1 year and just free plant like seed everywhere, because it'll be big enough to, avoid getting eaten by a crab at that point. So we're considering doing something like that too, if we have a tide that comes around to it. Or we were talking to Rachel, the shellfish biologist over in Chatham, and she overwinters some of them in 4 millimeter bags in condos. So we were considering doing that and putting them somewhere in a high flow area just to keep them going. And then she'll bring them back in the spring and put them back in her upwellers. And
it seems like a lot of work and like a lot of risk. And I would suggest that maybe you don't, if you said that they're about the size of an M&M, right?
These ones are bigger. These are like peanut M&M right now.
Yeah, they could have gone in long ago. You could have started planting them,
if we had the tides. We were planting
3 millimeter, 4 millimeter, like they will go into the ground. And if you have a net on top of them, it's just, in my opinion, I think less of a risk than keeping them in a upweller or a flupsy this late in the season with the temperatures dropping into the 40s every night, and the surface temperature of the water does get that cold. Prince Cove is the coldest water on the Cape right now, actually, in the ocean. It's the first to get very cold, and it's the first to freeze. So any animals in there, I'm very concerned about, and that's all I got to say.
They are still they're still active right now. They're still pooping, so we're out there cleaning them still. So they're still cranking along right now. But yeah, no, we're aware.
A small animal takes a little bit to get in. You know what I mean? Like, so every day it doesn't get to go in the ground. It has less of a chance of getting deep enough to prevent itself on those places like Handy Point and Cordwood and stuff like that on negative tides. Those negative tides, like as you said, they're hard to get because they're in not in daylight. And so in the wintertime, those negative tides, they will get killed because if they don't go down enough, because the negative tides are not in daylight, they're at night, the coldest times of the day, of the whole entire 24-hour period. The negative tides we're going into will be at night, every single one of them, if you look at the tide chart. So all I'm saying is maybe looking forward, you don't keep them in the flupsies as long to get so big, and you plant them smaller, because generally a lot of people plant them a lot smaller than that, and you risk them dying and going into the winter. That's all I'm saying.
No, I understand. I mean, we planted as many as we could with all the tides we had. We didn't miss a minus tide for planting quahogs, and that's why we still have oysters and trays at Scudder, because we used every single minus tide we could for quahogs. So yeah, we're going to try and get as many in the ground as we can soon, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get them all down. And we could free plant them all, but I mean, as other towns can, in other towns they throw out seed. And
I know, I understand, but at this point, it's almost like typically that wouldn't be the direct strategy, would be to free plant them. But I think at this point, you're splitting hairs at overwintering them and all that labor and infrastructure that goes into overwintering quahogs versus just maybe let's just make why maybe not make, I know that you guys make a little bit smaller nets, maybe make bigger nets so that you don't have as much time to lay down a net. And then you could just make one big net for this as an emergency, just lay them all down under one big net, and then figure out what to do with them in the spring, or maybe in the spring they're fine, I don't know, just some suggestions. I mean, it seems
Good
like
suggestions, Jake. Appreciate it.
so.
I think that Ben still has oysters to go through as well.
I do, yeah. So Tyler, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, am I muted? I was just gonna say, speaking to Liz in the past, she says that, and I've noticed this from clamming, like you get slow growth on the south side. Some of those little necks actually have a little neck with growth rings right here. It's not, I don't even know if this is legal size, but can you see that?
Yeah.
That's a 7-year little neck from the south side.
Right.
So we've got all these extra ones. The south side, you got to wait for the big negatives. The north side, you can access rendezvous even on positives. So, and it's right there, like right next to, you can walk to it with buckets of clams right from the truck and nets, and it's less, it's easier to access. So anyway, one solution could be maybe test those for disease and then just get them in the ground at rendezvous and they're in, and you could do it tomorrow morning.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we won't have a
That's
test,
just an idea.
but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Good thoughts, Tyler. Thank you. Anybody else? Anything else, Ben?
Yeah, I just have the oysters to go through as well.
Okay, great.
So oysters, we got 500,000 2.4 millimeter Island Creeks and 500,000 R2 ARCs. So we split it up.
When did you get those?
725,000.
Excuse me, when did you get those?
The ARCs came, I want to say end of June, and the Island Creeks, or maybe middle of June, and the Island Creeks were end of June. I have the exact numbers on my spreadsheets at my work computer, so I can get those if you want those numbers, but I don't know exactly off the top of my head.
Just curious.
Yeah. So yeah, north side, we put 725,000 over there, 375,000 Island Creeks, and they kind of sucked. They really poor survival. Their hatchery actually shut down. They lost their entire quahog spawn. We were planning on getting quahogs from them, and then we got more from ARC because they couldn't come through with them. And then, yeah, their oysters just weren't great this year. So pretty poor survival out of those. And then the 350 ARCs did okay compared to last year. I don't really like that Flupsy and Millway all that much. So we have 214,000 of them out in bags at Scudder right now. They're going to be overwintered there. And we still have some more to go through that are out in seed bags at Scudder too that look pretty good, but we don't have an exact number on them. We did 400,000 remote set bags this year, and those look awesome. The new ones that are in trays right now look awesome. They're probably like 1.5 inches, some of them 2 inches already. And all the stuff on the ground from 2020 and 2021 looks great. People are going through them, harvesting them right now. We got 20,000 pieces from Barnstable Harbor growers, inch and a quarter stuff. We wanted to get 200,000 pieces for that, and we were unable to fill the bid. We sent the bid out 3 times, and once in February, once in March, once in April. And Yeah, we allotted a bunch of money to spend on the Barnstable Harbor growers, and we couldn't fill the bid. So we reworked the budget a little bit, but we still left 17,000 on the table that got sent back to the general fund with that. So it's kind of a bummer that we lost all that shell stock money, but we're trying to do it a little differently this year to make sure we don't do that again.
Well, you can't, you're not gonna buy, inch and a quarter seed or inch and a half seed for, what's the price? 15 cents or 20 cents or, how many, 15?
Yeah.
Well, you're just not gonna be able to buy it. It's just not enough money.
No.
Simple as that. That's why you didn't fill the order, because nobody wants to sell it to you.
Well, I mean, this was
Because
the first
prices
year
have
we didn't
gone up.
fill the order. It's been 15 cents for, I don't know, 15 years now. However, when
Yeah.
Tom started doing it like that.
Yeah,
It's
you're never gonna fill the order at 15 cents. I'm just telling you right now.
We
Not gonna
bought
happen.
Taunton River relay clams for like some areas, maybe with that $17,000 instead of just letting it go.
We tried to get larger cohogs with it, and ARC wasn't able to fill that.
Well,
to get larger
the
cohogs
Taunton
with it.
River, like the Taunton River relay stuff, like
Yeah,
is
I
that-
know. I guess we didn't really look into that, but I guess it would have been an option.
We've tried to get away from that though,
Right.
just because. of
Yeah,
the
I know, but
concern.
like in recent days, that was then and this is now when our environment is what it is there.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It's like we're not preserving anything by or it's this, I found the boring sponge and all that stuff all the way out like off of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard this summer. And so, there's nothing I'm pretty convinced that it's all like the scientists say, it's endemic and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's the environment that entices its growth and all those other nasty things. And it's all about the water quality more than anything. So to bring in different clams from the Taunton River, I mean, I fish in Mount Hope Bay on a friend's boat, which empties into the Taunton River. It looks just like North Bay.
yeah.
You can ask Tyler. I've shown him pictures of like.
Yeah, we don't really have a wild stock to protect anymore. It's all just it's like
Man grown.
it's just the bottom is soured on the south side so bad that
Mhm.
all the historic spots that maybe 10 years ago guys were trying to protect, they're not there.
I know that people in the Bass were very, very against the Taunton River, and I would agree. I probably would have been against it myself back in the day, back when the habitat was what it was. But what it is now, the Taunton River stuff is not going to hurt us. I'm not a scientist, and I can't, but I firmly believe, I highly doubt that it would have any adverse effect on our population of dying clams on the south side.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. All right, Ben, you want to keep going?
Sure. Yeah. So south side, we put 725,000 of those oysters, 125,000 in the Island Creeks, and 150,000 are two ARCs. They all went to Town Dock. We're growing them there now instead of Bay Street because we're trying to let the Bay Street go foul after this season to maybe get that dermo rating down. So after this year's oyster season at Bay Street, we're going to try and clean it out, and then we're just going to let it go fallow for a year or two. So we're going to grow them at Town Dock. We're going to probably plant some of them at Bridge Street, probably most of them at Bridge Street. We might consider doing the Town Dock again, but it's really slimy over there. The seaweed just kind of smothers them. So, but anyways, they're going to be grown there. So they're going to be overwintered there. And those ones are all mixed together, and total survival was 96%. So the Island Creeks didn't die over there, but they grew very slow. I don't remember oysters being in the Flupsy that long in my entire time here. So they were slow. I don't know how they're going to do in the bags. Hopefully they get big enough by next oyster season, but yeah, time will tell. But the ARCs over there look good.
Good to know.
For next year, we're going to do another 400 remote set bags. We're going to do 3.5 million quahog, small quahogs, some from Musgunga, some from ARC for the Flupsy, and another million oysters for the Flupsies. And we're going to try and get that north side survival up. So we're going to buy some larger Flupsy stock. We're looking at 6 to 8 millimeter instead of the 3 to 4 that we usually buy. So we're going to start them off double the size we usually get them at, and hopefully that'll increase their survival over there. Yeah, Jake or Tyler?
I think that if you're going to buy 6 or 8 millimeter stuff, you should put it right under nets. Don't even
It's
put 'em-
oysters.
It doesn't
Oysters.
matter. Put them right in the bags.
Yeah, we have, I mean, we do have bags that
we were
we-
going to a flupsy. A flupsy should be at micro stages at 1 to 3 or 4 millimeters, and then you move on from there. Anyways, let's be all right.
Tyler, you just-
Yeah, I was just curious. I had similar, like I also bought 2.4 millimeter Island Creek seed, and it I don't know how much of it died. Did you get any numbers on, like, how much do you think that, how much died, do you think, of your stuff?
I mean, we sorted, so we started the Island Creeks and the ARCs separate, but then we would just do a sort on them just to get the good sizes. So I assume that all the bigger ARCs came out first, and
Yeah.
then the small Island Creeks. So, I mean, I can say that at least half of those Island Creeks, I probably are like
Yeah.
10% survival, and then the other half, I'm not quite sure, just because we did them a little differently. But,
Yeah, that
a lot
sounds
of
about
them-
right. I'd say about half mine died too, maybe more.
So
Wow.
yeah, not great there. It's about right.
I feel like if you don't like the flupsies on the south, on the north side in North Bay, in the Barnstable Harbor, like instead of trying to make them work like so hard and like trying to and say, well, it didn't work with this size seed, so maybe it'll work with bigger seed. It's just a water quality issue in the back of that bay that doesn't like have enough flow. You know what I'm saying? And so you have a great growing area right off Scudder Lane.
Right, and I mean, we do have seed bags now, so we'll probably split up those 6 to 8 millimeters just to see where they do better. And I was also talking with one of the harbor masters. He's trying to, I don't know when this is going to happen or if it's going to happen, but he wants to move us closer to that creek where the little bridge is that spills out into a millway there.
Yeah,
I think one of the private guys, I forget who has a flupsy over there, and he says his has great production. So we're trying to get closer to that creek if we can with that flupsy, just to get
That'd
that over there.
But in the meantime, I'm just saying maybe like instead of just like look outside the box a little bit of like what has been established for you and just like look and like and just say, well, let's like instead of trying to make the flupsies work, like maybe put them in a bag like at a little bit higher density and split them a little bit more. Instead of going out cleaning the flupsies as many times, you might get a better growth rate by taking care of them in bags like off of Scudder Lane that has a great flow, awesome flow right there, you know? And then as far as like the south side goes, if you have any issues with that, I've said it before, and I'd love to support, like, I don't see why you couldn't have the Prince Cove flupsy that you have in the Centerville River, which
I mean,
has
the Prince Cove flupsy has great production. They do really well there.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, there's a couple years where there was an issue. You know, there's one year where there was fuel spilt in there and it killed a bunch, and then the year after that, it was like an algae issue. So all I'm saying, so this
And that
year
could
was
happen
good,
anywhere.
but in the past if this year was good, in the past 3 years, that's 2 out of 3 years that weren't good, and so we have to bet on.
Well, I mean, we planted 2 million last year. I wouldn't call that bad.
So I'm just trying to look at it as a practical thing. It's like, I know everyone loves the Prince Cove thing, but there's not much flow back there. And you've had 2 bad years. So maybe we could, I don't know.
You talk about a
What's wrong with
flupsy
the
instead of
Centerville
a
River? What's wrong with the Centerville River? It grows, it's like the only natural setting cohogs on the south side. It has great food in there and great flow. So it's just food for thought. That's all.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Ben? Any suggestions?
We used to have a flupsy in the docks over there in Millway. I never thought much of it. We do sell a lot of seed to the county and to a bunch of towns down Cape. A lot of 4-count stuff, which goes right into a 6 mil bag, which kind of eliminates the iffiness of buying seed from small seed that the hatcheries have a lot of problems. I mean, it's pretty sad situation in the hatchery department, but that's one way you can get around it. But that's that's your call, you know?
Appreciate the insight.
I say one thing on top of that, what he just said,
Sure, go ahead.
is that I work on a farm in Barnstable Harbor and bought large seed, and that did great. And then bought 1 million cohog and at 2 millimeter. And I've done 2 millimeter under nets before, and they've done great, but these particular ones didn't do that great. And I mean, I know that you guys are doing flupsies and all that, but it doesn't matter because there's a certain level of risk whether you're doing the net or the flupsies, and like, yeah, the bigger size stuff certainly does a lot better for sure. As you know.
Thank you, Jake. Ben, anything else to add?
Yeah, just two more quick things. Yeah, we're looking to get, we're gonna try and get 150,000 larger oysters from Barnstable growers for next season. And also we're gonna do the Centerville River relays next year. So we're gonna allot 10,000 for that. So I think it was 40 a bushel 2 years ago when we did it. So we don't have any dates for that, but if you guys have suggestions for that, let us know. We can do a couple of days. We can do low tide, we can do high tide days, but just know that we're gonna be planning on the relays for the spring.
Great.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Ben.
I think Nina
Stuart?
wanted to have a word too before.
Sure. Nina, you've got,
Hey, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I just first want to say that Ben and Liz and crew did a really excellent job this year. You know, we hear a lot from commercial folks when we present this, but I do want to let everybody know that the feedback we're getting from the recreational people is they're really happy out there. It's always fun to have opening day. And Ben and Liz continue to produce more and more shellfish for this town, as you can see from the data. So we appreciate the feedback, but I do want to make sure that everybody recognizes how hard these guys work. So I want to start with that. Thank you, Ben, for your
Thanks, Ben.
presentation. It was very good.
And Liz.
People are still coming in, which is a little weird. I wanted to also take a minute. You can see that the shellfish program is doing very well. Our shellfish permit sales are continuing to increase. Our S account is very robust. As you can see, every year we do more stock purchase and more producing more cohogs and oysters. So overall, the program is doing very well. And what I wanted to speak to you guys about is that we would like to use the S account to purchase a used pickup truck for the shellfish crew. They're driving around in a truck that is quite frankly not safe. I reached out to Mark Milne and he said that we could use these funds for this purpose, but he did ask that I bring it before this committee to let you guys know that that's the direction we wanted to go. I don't believe we need a vote, but I would be open to any questions that you might have.
anybody from the committee have any questions?
What's the S account again?
Okay, S account is the, what's another word that we use for it, Ben? It's the revolving account, I think maybe is what you
Shellfish
understand of it
revolving.
as, yeah.
Like the general fund is different than the S account?
Yeah, so the S account is a revolving fund, and so all of the permit fees go into that account. And
Oh,
we
so
use,
it's separate it's for your department, and it doesn't go back, like, if you don't use the money, it stays in that fund and it doesn't go back into the general fund like the shell stock does.
right, shell stock is general fund, shell stock
don't
comes out of
use this
taxpayer,
money.
yep.
It just stays in that account? Yeah, I gotcha.
Mhm.
So it's like, it's for your department?
Right, and it's, the revenue is from the sales of shellfish permits.
Only shellfish permits?
Shellfish permits, that includes commercial and the aquaculture grants, which is
And recreational?
frankly not that much money, and recreation is where the big nut is, yeah.
I gotcha, cool. And nothing to do with like moorings or anything, right?
No, sir.
I gotcha, cool. All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Nina, I have a question. Approximately how much is in the S account now?
I believe we're hovering around 300.
And
We're
what
doing
is
very
the
well.
cost of the vehicle?
Well, vehicles are hard to come across right now, but I'd like to be in like the 20 to 25 range if I can find the appropriate vehicle.
Well, I mean, the town of Barnstable has, 1,000 brand new trucks riding around all the time. Why can't you get, why can't you have one of those trucks?
Well, generally, we don't like to put brand new trucks in certain situations. Sandy Neck is one of them, and Shellfish would be another. You're really, in quite a harsh environment. So one of the options is to purchase a new truck and then hand down an older truck to the Shellfish program, but we're not set up to do that right now. And so I was looking for a way to get an additional truck into our fleet.
Gotcha. What would it take to get $25,000 from the general fund for that?
So we could ask for that in the next fiscal year, but the funds, if we were able to secure those funds, they wouldn't be available until July 1st.
Is it possible to ask for those funds to replenish the 25,000 that you would take from the S account? Do you follow what I mean?
I'm following what you mean. I certainly wouldn't know the answer, but I would be happy to ask that question.
What else does the S account pay for?
The S account pays for all of the tools and like all the bags and all the all the
Gotcha.
hardware,
Gear.
Sorry, gear.
Not
It
so.
also-
So it's not seed and it's not employees.
No, and it does pay for employees, but not all the employees. It
The
pays for
seasonal-
Ben's salary and the seasonal salaries.
So it's like the propagation fund.
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
I got you. So, and they don't have a truck right now?
They have a truck, but it's maybe
It's the
Ben
one
can
that
speak
they
to the
trailer,
truck.
is it the one they trailer all the time with and stuff?
That's correct.
I got you. So I know that's an old truck. Okay. Yeah, then I just don't understand why you couldn't just take it right out of that fund if there's 300,000 whatever dollars in there and just buy a truck. That seems like to make sense. That's an old truck, and if you guys really vote with it.
So, Nina,
Mhm.
you said that you haven't identified the vehicle that you want to purchase as of yet, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So it sounds like there's not a lot of pushback for the use of those funds. If Mark Milne can see his way clear to the process that you would employ to use the 25,000 or up to 25,000 out of the S account for the truck, and then make a request at the next go around to the general fund just to replenish that. If he could see clear to doing that, that would certainly make me feel more comfortable that the S account is being used for the purposes that it was designed to be used for. So
I will look into that. Do you
Thank
want me
you
to
very much.
report back by the next meeting?
that'd be great.
Okay.
I just don't want you to lose your window. If you find a truck, you want to buy it. Again, I don't see a lot of pushback here. So,
I'd buy a new truck.
Yeah, I know. Just go. I mean, not brand new, but just buy a nice one. Don't buy brand new because that's a waste of money. But
Stuart,
yes,
I'm going to leave the meeting soon. Just so you know, in the early days of the Shellfish Propagation Fund, when I was working for the town, I drove a little red Le Mans. It was a hatchback that was a minimalist way of getting around. It was not able to tow a truck, tow a boat or anything.
Right.
So I'll say that the Shellfish Propagation Program has matured since I was an employee there, and I believe has improved for the benefit of not only commercial but also the residents. And if there was a surplus of $17,000 that got sent to the general fund, that you might as well use it for shellfish purposes and use it for a truck. That's my 2 cents there. I also want to chime in on when I worked on the floating upwellers at Prince Cove, that the original floating upweller was on a private dock on in West Bay, off of the how do I near
the
the
bridge?
near the Sepuit River,
Okay.
and the quahog seed was dying, and Dale Levitt checked it out, and they said it was starving. When we moved the floating upweller to Prince Cove, the complexity and the availability of phytoplankton was so much better. They were starving near the ocean, but the phytoplankton, the food for the young quahog seed was plentiful, and the quahog seed grew very well at Prince Cove. So because of the nitrogen loading that came into Prince Cove, the young seed were able to take advantage of it, whereas it was more dilute and not as good a food source closer to the ocean. So upper in the estuary was a better place for the location of the floating upweller, is my 2 cents on where how my experience was there at that time. So I do believe that Prince Cove does serves two purposes: one, to feed the quahog seed, and two, to utilize the nutrient load that comes first into Prince Cove before it multiplies.
That was a long time ago though, and like the ecosystem there has changed quite a bit, I believe, is what I truly believe. I truly believe that it's degraded a lot. It's not what year was that, if you don't mind me asking?
It was in the 2000s.
Like,
I'm old. I know.
No, I mean, because I've been, since like when I was a little kid, it didn't look like it did now. So I remember what it used to look like when I was a little kid too. And I just think that it's getting pretty sour in there. If you don't see any baby seed, if you have to drive all the way out to, like, maybe a couple spots in North Bay, maybe that, you might find on a high end spot some seed that survives, but there's no surviving seed in North Bay that I find anywhere.
Naturally occurring, you're saying.
And so what that tells me is that water isn't conducive to feed and grow.
That's a bottom issue. That's not a water quality issue.
You think
it's a bottom issue? Yeah.
I happen to agree with Al on this one, because as long as the floating upweller has oxygen and food, it'll feed the seed.
Interesting.
It's not a bottom issue. I agree with Al on that.
Yeah, it's just,
All right, I'm gonna move on, but I do want to get back to Nina about your truck. The 17,000 was just mentioned that went back to the general fund. Any way to have used that for the truck?
Highly unlikely. That was a fiscal year 22 PO that was set up for ARC. So it's very difficult to change the trajectory of that, since it was last year's PO.
Gotcha.
And I did want to say, I just looked up our revolving account. It's 284,000. So
284. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Nina.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No.
Great. Thanks. We don't have anything else other than status of the repair of Scudder Lane Town Landing. I think we know about that. That's our only old business. Everybody's now aware of the 11/16 meeting this month. It's a week from today at 4:00 at the Harbor View Room in the county complex. Any matters not reasonably anticipated by me? Anybody?
is this for old business or new? I do want to put on next month's agenda an issue.
And you and I know that you've called me, Alan. I owe you a phone call, and I will call you
Sorry.
tomorrow on that.
Okay.
And we'll get it on next month's agenda. Amy wanted to be here for that, and she'll be at our next meeting. So we'll get it on the next agenda.
Is that going to be that's not going to be a Zoom meeting, is it?
Good question. We were kicked out of the room this time because they were using the room for storage of ballots.
Oh, okay.
And so next meeting, which will be, let me just look at a calendar.
December,
That will be the 14th.
okay,
So right now, it's not scheduled to be a Zoom meeting, so it will be
Good.
at the town hall selectmen's conference room.
terrific. That's great.
So I don't
Stuart?
hear any matters.
Stuart?
Yes, I
Mark
can't
Begley?
see, for whatever reason, I can't see anybody but who's talking. So
Okay.
who's that?
Stuart,
Hi,
Mark
Mark.
Begley.
Hi, Mark. Yes.
Just wanted to follow up on something that Doug mentioned at the very beginning, which is that minke whale, the dead minke whale in Barnstable Harbor.
Yes.
I guess my question is there any plans to have that removed before it starts rotting and potentially, causing water contamination? Right now it's up in Scorton Creek section of Barnstable Harbor, and which isn't that far from the aquaculture area. It isn't very far from some of the wild harvest areas. Is there any way that, whether it be the harbor master, which is oftentimes the entity in the various towns that drag dead whales out to seas from the shore of their communities, is there any way that something like that could be done to remove it before it starts to decay, which inevitably will happen because it will just start shifting around in the upper reaches of Barnstable Harbor in prime shellfish habitat?
Nina?
Yeah, Mark, I can ask the harbor master. I think they just finished the necropsy today.
They did.
The animal is up on Wicks Island, which is pretty far up there. But I certainly can look into that. In the past, we've had minke whales up on the Sandy Neck side when that was my primary job. And we've just let nature do its course, but I understand your concern about being closer to the grants.
Yeah, I think there was one in the harbor itself near the boat basin back in 2018 that I believe the town disposed of on land at the time. But again, it would be great to get it out of such a important shellfish area in the harbor.
There also was a dead pilot whale up on Wicks Island before, and I don't think that was removed. I forget what year that was, but that was up there on the where they dragged it up to do the necropsy. And yeah, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that one didn't get removed. Obviously, pilot whale's not as big as a minke, but still something.
Yeah, that minke's pretty big. It was sad to see it up on the sandbar on Sunday afternoon there. But it's big. Yeah, if something could be done, because it didn't sound like the folks doing the necropsy were gonna do anything other than leave it there, and whether the tide would keep it there or if it was going to be anchored or tied down or something like that to keep it from coming back into more open shellfish areas. Maybe there's something else other than taking it out to sea, but go feed some, great white somewhere would probably be a better thing to do with it.
Can you reach it at high tide?
Yeah.
It was underwater. I'm not sure where they put it.
I mean, if it was buoyed, I could grab it with my skiff. I got a 28-foot, so it wouldn't. I could tie it up to the side of the boat and bring it out.
That'd be great.
Very nice of you to do it.
You find
Yeah.
the whale, can you keep it?
Pardon?
Can you keep the whale if you find it? Can you
No.
keep the bones and stuff?
I don't think so.
Like what's the deal with the bones? Like
I thought I didn't do too much for it.
No, you
I
can't.
have a guy.
No, there's a lot of protections even of the bones and the carcass. So let me, Mark, to your concerns, let me look into this and see what the harbor master wants to do. And I can get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Just let me
Great.
know.
Thank you. Good
I will
question,
let you
Mark.
know, DJ.
Any other issues?
Tyler has his hand up.
Stuart.
Great, thank
Yeah,
you.
I just had something, and sorry I didn't put this on the agenda. It was kind of just something I've been thinking about in the last couple of days more seriously. But over the years, we've kind of joked out on the farms and on the flats, like, who would ever rescue us if anything were to happen? And, you know, we have a ton of oyster farmers out in Barnstable Harbor, wild fishermen, like, you know, at low tide, there's a lot of people working the harbor. And I went out a couple weeks ago and my back was out of line and I was kind of like, should I go? Should I not? What if I tweak it and I have a hard time crawling back in the boat? So anyway, the point is like, if there's an emergency, who do we call? Like, who's the
Ghostbusters.
No, I'd be happy to answer that. We do.
I think
I've
about
done.
it. The harbor master, they don't have a boat to come get us.
Mhm.
The fire department, they don't have a boat to come get us.
Hmm.
And it really basically comes down to like Liz and Ben, and they're on the south side, on the north side, doing their thing, you know. So I really don't, and it's really not their job to come rescue us. It's more first responder.
Coast Guard.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
so-
say the Coast Guard.
Coast Guard's gonna come over.
Yeah, can I
Fire
speak to-
department in town waters, it's fire department and harbor master.
Yeah,
I would
so,
think you're right, Jake.
so everybody on my staff is first responder. We're all trained.
Okay.
We do a lot of rescue. I've done a ton of rescue out of Barnstable Harbor. I've 20 years of rescue. So there's a lot of different avenues. We work in tandem with both West Barnstable and Barnstable Fire Department, as well as the Harbor Master. We do yearly mock drills, and generally they are water rescues because those are the most challenging for us.
Right.
And so, I mean, you name it, I've done it on the marsh side. We work with Coast Guard. So our last big rescue was the middle of the winter, up on one of those islands, and it was
That's
a helicopter rescue.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the tide.
So that's kind of that's the cause of my concern. At high tide, whatever, no big deal. You call it, like, anybody can come get you at high tide. It's a big lake. But at dead low tide, you have to know exactly where you are and you have to be going full speed. So should we try to maybe I talked to Mark about this earlier and he mentioned that maybe once a year, the GPSs on the boats should have a track line going up some of these channels, just so they know they can turn the boat on, go full throttle, know exactly where to go. Versus like bumping into that sandbar, going 100 feet, hitting another one, you know what I mean? Because if you're not there, if you don't have the track lines or you're not, you know, there frequently enough, if you're off by 5-10 feet, you're hard of ground.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. We do have maps that we work, because a lot of times when we're doing rescue at Sandy Neck, our perspective is from the land is different than the perspective from the boat. And if there's something between us, we do have a digital map that we're using, so we certainly could. And we would welcome additional information on there for a quick in and out of those channels. So I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, as the aquaculture industry continues to grow in the harbor, I think it's something that we should continue to talk about over the years.
Well said.
So
If I
who
could
do you
follow up-
call? Who, at the end of the day, who do you call?
We're calling
You
Nina.
call 911.
Tyler
So
Hagenstein.
that's what the
Get
question.
Nina's cell phone.
Well, I've been
Done
the
a couple
one that,
rescues.
I've been the one doing the rescues the last few years. What if I get in trouble?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
does Tyler call?
you call 911. We you know, you don't probably see this side of us, but my number one job is safety for staff and for the public. And it's really a hot topic for all of us. The staff is heavily trained. If you call 911, we all have the 800 radios going. We can hear what's going on. We're all piped into the emergency response network. So we'll be involved. If there's anything in the marsh, we get involved.
Okay.
Great.
Nina,
Good to know.
Mark Bagley, could I just follow up on what Tyler was saying?
Mhm.
Do your boats have GPS in them? I know in the past, when I've asked previous employees if they had GPS in their skiffs. The answer was no, because I had offered to let them follow me as I go down the channels that I'm very familiar with, so they could have put in waypoints or have a track line, and they didn't have anything. Is that something you could also look into? All of those boats that are going out there should have GPS so that you can stay in the channels, because it's very misleading depending on how the light is hitting the water, sometimes whether they're going to run aground. Previous people, none of your current employees, but previous folks, you just feel bad for them how many times they hit sandbars as they were coming out to the aquaculture area.
Yep.
Sure.
I know we don't have GPS on either of our skiffs. We're like bare bones. We have, tiller motor and a battery, and that's it. And I think Katie just got a depth finder on her boat, but she doesn't have GPS on that one either.
I'll donate one to you guys. I have an
A little handheld GPS is all you need, even.
Yeah,
$100.
that's a count.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the
General
count.
fund.
$100,000.
You're
but-
battery, you can't see a thing.
Honestly,
mean
is that
phone?
much different than a phone at this point?
Yeah, way different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Way
way
big
different.
difference.
No service, anything. You get 50 feet in front of you and you can see exactly where you're going.
Okay.
Pitch black, you can drive out there with just looking at the screen.
But we're not allowed to.
I do.
You didn't say that, Jake.
What,
Mr.
looking at the
Chair.
screen, you can't drive out on a GPS?
No, yeah. you can.
At night? What do you mean at night?
That's like, how else do you drive? GPS and radar.
In the fog.
Yeah, or night.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Will you take a motion to adjourn?
I
I
will.
second the motion.
All those in favor, start with Bill,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Al,
Aye.
Aye.
DJ,
Aye.
Tyler,
I
Patricia,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
and Stuart. Aye. We're adjourned. We'll see each other on the 14th in person.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very
Thank you.
much, Stuart.